Well, a contentious issue in this campaign has been the Iranian nuclear deal. You know, Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders strongly support it, while the Republicans are vehemently against it. Well, now it turns out the agreement is not even signed. The State Department telling Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin of New York that it does not have to be. So Congressman Zeldin asked Secretary of State John Kerry about all this and the curious absence of Iran's John Hancock.
Why didn't you ask Iran to sign the nuclear agreement?
Well, I believe they did sign it.
Well, the letter that you sent said it's not a signed agreement. The reason why I was asking is it says that JCPOA is not a treaty or an executive agreement.
That's accurate.
It is not a signed document.
That is accurate. It's not a treaty. It is a political agreement, but the actual agreement between the IAEA and Iran is signed. And that is a legal obligation.
But the Iran nuclear agreement, the JCPOA, the P5+1, whatever we call it, is not signed by Iran.
That is a political agreement, correct.
So what does all this mean? Ambassador John Bolton, former U.S. ambassador at the UN, Fox News contributor, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, joins us as always. So, Ambassador, I buy a car, I sign for it. I buy a house, I sign the mortgage. I go to Applebee's for my Fiesta chicken dinner and the nachos at dinner, and I sign the check. Is my Applebee's bill, because I signed it, more legally binding than the Iranian nuclear deal?
Well, I think it's probably worth more than the Iran nuclear deal. Welcome to the fantasy land of international law. Look, the Iranians have said for 15 years that every agreement they've made with the Europeans, with the Perm 5, up to and including this Vienna nuclear deal, is simply a voluntary undertaking on their part. They've entered into it voluntarily, and when it suits them to perform it, they'll perform it. When it doesn't suit them to perform it anymore, they'll walk away from it. So they at least have been consistent. They treat all of this as something that they do out of the goodness of their hearts. Now, in fact, I think they're already violating the Vienna deal. I think they've been violating it before the ink was dry. But they've never been under any illusions as to just exactly how binding this is in their minds. It's purely voluntary from their perspective.
Well, Secretary of State Kerry at that hearing told the congressman that the vice president of Iran signed the IAEA agreement. Does that count? Is that enough?
Well, jump for joy. You know, that agreement gives the IAEA certain responsibilities to monitor the Iranian nuclear program. And I believe the IAEA will do what it can under the limitations that have been put under it, including being denied access to some key facilities. But the real point is that the IAEA is not an espionage agency. It monitors what is declared to it and what is open to it. I think it will do that, and that's all it will do. It will not be a sure guarantee that Iran is not violating the deal, for example, by cooperating with North Korea, among others, both on nuclear matters and on ballistic missile matters, which are not covered by the deal at all.
Do you believe that Iran is living up to its word in this deal?
Absolutely not. I think they never had any intention of living up to their word. I think that their objective was to get relief from the international economic sanctions, to get their assets unfrozen, to get back into international commerce, to try and bind the West in with economic deals that will be very hard for a new president to reverse, to get people to accept the inevitable about Iran's continued progress. And with another year to go of this administration, they're well on the way to doing it. This was a path North Korea went down in the 1990s when it signed the agreed framework with the Clinton administration. You could write a playbook for rogue states seeking weapons of mass destruction as to how to con the United States, and the Iranians read the playbook and did an excellent job of it from their perspective.
And finally, Ambassador, you just used the word inevitable. What do you think the inevitable is?
The inevitable is a nuclear-armed Iran capable with ballistic missiles to hit targets anywhere on Earth. Countries in the region realize this already, the Saudis, the Egyptians, the Turks, and others. That's why they've now started nuclear weapons programs. The consequences of this deal are extraordinarily adverse for the United States and its friends. It ought to be the subject of a lot of discussion in the upcoming presidential campaign, especially given Hillary Clinton's likely nomination, since the strategy that Barack Obama pursued that led to the deal being signed last year was a strategy that started when she was Secretary of State.
Ambassador John Bolton, as always, we thank you for your insight. Certainly we'll continue with this in the campaign. Thank you.